Today on Passion for Food, we're going to be talking turkey, specifically these two leftover turkey recipes, turkey pot pie and turkey salad. I know leftover turkey isn't always the most exciting sounding thing, but these recipes come out so delicious you'll be flocking to make a turkey just for the leftovers. So let's go ahead and fly the coop and get started here. And first up, let's go ahead and make our turkey pot pie, starting with the filling, of course. We're going to be using about 3 tablespoons of butter. You could use regular oil, but the butter, of course, has much more flavor. And the fun thing about these pot pies is you can pretty much just use up whatever you have around, so don't take these ingredients as being set in stone. But today I'm going to start with 1 large carrot. And you know, me personally, I don't bother peeling my carrots, but if that bothers you, you go ahead and do that. I'm just going to cut off the end, and then we're going to split these in half. And depending on the size of your carrot, you may just want to split it in half again. Although this was quite a large one, so I wound up cutting each half into 3 slices or so. And then we'll just get it diced up. If you're using smaller carrots, you can probably get away with simply slicing them into rounds. The size of these pieces are completely up to us. Once we're happy, we'll just get this added to our pot with the melting butter. Next up, I'm going to be using a couple ribs of celery. I see peas in pot pie a lot, but I don't like peas, so we're going to be using celery. Which, hey, reminds me of an old joke. What's the difference between a pot pie and pea soup? Well, anyone can make this pot pie. Anyway, we're just going to split these in half and then dice into similar sizes as our carrots. At which point we'll dump these into the pot to get all buttered up. At which point we'll grab our last aromatic ingredient, 1 large onion. And when we slice these this way, it's a good idea to leave the root attached. So we're just going to cut off this far end, split it in half, and then remove that onion skin. Now, when it comes to dicing onions, I see a whole lot of people making cuts across like that, but because of how the onions are layered, there's literally no point to that, so don't do that. So we just want to slice down lengthwise in the size you want your final pieces to be, and then we'll simply slice across. We'll get nice, even pieces that way. And because we left that root on, that's going to hold everything together for us, so you want to slice right up to the root. Don't slice through it. And we'll add that to the pot with the rest of our vegetables and give that a nice mix. We don't actually want this to cook right now. We're just sort of bringing everything together. And I'm also going to be using 1 large russet potato. Again, all of these ingredients are optional. You can use whatever you like here. Now, I don't always peel my potatoes, but for pot pie I do. I think the peels can be a little off-putting. So let's go ahead and peel that on out of here. So we just want to cut this into nice, even slices, and I like making little potato stacks like this. Makes it a little quicker. From there, we just cut lengthwise into strips, and then across into cubes. The size of these just needs to be approximately the same size as the rest of our vegetables. And then, yep, you guessed it, it's into the pot we go. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, what, no garlic? Yeah, I know. I was tempted to put garlic in there, but with turkey being such a subtle flavor, I thought it would be a little overwhelming. Anyway, we'll just give this a nice mix, and again, we're not really trying to cook anything, we're just getting it nicely coated in that butter. And to bring that pot pie gravy together, we're going to be using a little less than 1/4 of a cup of flour. I probably wound up using about 2 to 3 tablespoons of flour. We want to just continue adding flour until you can no longer see any butter in the pan. At which point we're going to add about 1.5 cups of a nice quality chicken stock. And now we just want to give this a good mix. It'll thicken up nicely for us as it comes up to temperature. And last but definitely not least, I'm going to be adding about 3/4 pounds of cubed up turkey breast. If you're wondering how to cook that, check out the recipe in the top right here for my roast turkey recipe. So we'll just get everything thoroughly combined, and once it's a good consistency, we're just going to cover this, and I'm going to let it cool down for about an hour. You can actually skip this if you're going to be cooking these right away, but I was planning on freezing mine today, so you definitely want to let it cool in that case. And to put the pie in our pot pie, I'm actually using these pre-made pie shells. They come in packs of 2 like this, along with 2 of these 8-inch cake tins and some parchment paper. And one of the things that makes these homemade pot pies so much better than anything I've ever been able to buy in the freezer section is that we're going to actually roll out these pie crusts so it's nice and thin. I really hate those frozen pot pies that have that thick crust and then the filling is just like some tepid gravy with a couple little bits floating in it. You know what I mean? And pro tip, it's a good idea to let these come up to room temperature before you try and unroll them. Otherwise, they have a tendency to kind of crack on you. And that's just not the fun kind of cracking up. And you could, of course, make the pie crust by hand as well, but I figured this is a leftovers recipe, so we're going to be doing it this way. And really, we just want to roll this out until it's increased in size by something like 50% or so. At which point, we just want to lay it into one of our parchment paper lined cake tins flour side down. Try and keep it even. We don't really want a ton of crust on one side and then nothing on the other side. And with all that practice we got with the first one, the second one always comes out so much quicker. Anyway, now that both shells are ready, it's time to get filling. And this part is easy. We just want to kind of guesstimate about half of our filling in each pie shell. And for that beautiful brown, we do want an egg wash. Whoops, lost my basting brush. That's okay. Get back here, you. And at this point, we just want to fold up these extra little bits of crust in towards the middle. I really love doing it this way because not only do you get that nice thin pastry for your pot pie, but you get 2 pot pies out of 1 box of those pie crusts instead of 1 pot pie that's just so crusty. And depending on how thin we roll this, there is going to be a little hole in the middle, but that's actually perfect ventilation, so don't worry about that. That's going to look beautiful once these are cooked. And just again for the second one. Alright, and now for that beautiful golden brown everybody loves, we just want to cover this in a quick egg wash. And yes, even though I plan to freeze these, I am going to pre-egg wash them. That totally works. You don't have to egg wash them right before you put them in the oven. Now, normally I would cook one of these and freeze one of these, but I'm going to go ahead and freeze both of them today. So let's go ahead and chill out by just stashing these straight in our freezer. They'll be frozen solid in about an hour or 2. And once they're frozen, we can just pop them out of the cake tin like this and freeze it in a plastic bag indefinitely. So I'm going to keep that one for later and go ahead and cook the other one. This one is still fully frozen. And we're simply going to bake that in a 400-degree oven for an hour. Although if you're cooking these right away and they haven't been frozen, I would cook them at 425 degrees for 35 minutes instead. So for increased dramatic effect, let's go ahead and scoot this off of the parchment paper. And don't mind Sir Claudius in the background. He's just supervising to make sure this doesn't turn into a catastrophe. And I do like cutting this into quarters. But there you go, this beautiful turkey pot pie is ready to eat, and boy is it far better than anything you're going to get from any frozen aisle in the grocery store. So let's go ahead and grab a bite of this awesomeness, and it's kind of like you've combined all the flavors of Thanksgiving dinner and put it into a flaky pie crust. And yes, that is just as awesome as it sounds. But wait, you might be thinking, you're entirely underestimating just how lazy I am. I have leftover turkey, but that seems like a lot of work. What else you got? Well, alright, let's do this quick and easy bonus turkey salad recipe. Which couldn't be easier. First up, we have got about half a cup of diced dill pickles, about 1/3 of a cup of sliced green onions, 4 slices of extra crispy bacon crumbled up into little bits like this, about 1 tablespoon of yellow mustard or mustard of your choice, and about 1/2 cup of mayo. I like the whipped kind, but that's just me. If we wanted this to be a little more acidic, we could add a couple tablespoons of apple cider vinegar right now, but I decided not to this time. So we just want to get this all thoroughly mixed together. At which point we're going to add about a tablespoon of salt. This is seasoning salt I'm using today, but regular salt is just fine. And then, of course, the star of the show, our turkey. This is about a pound of cubed up turkey breast. But that's it. Just give this a quick mix and our turkey salad is ready to serve. Preferably on some nice, fresh, crusty bread. But there you have it, folks. Turkey pot pie and turkey salad. Two perfect ways to make a delicious meal out of that leftover turkey or chicken. So in closing, let me just leave you with this. Do you know why turkeys are never extremists? Because they're half left wing and half right wing. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Passion for Food. If you have, give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing and hitting that little bell so you don't miss our future episodes. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.